Cafe, 6 of 1, or Across the Hall, which might not have attracted the wealth of guest stars who eventually passed through the portals of Central Perk. And then there was the casting. Here too, they nearly got it all wrong. OK, they did all right with the boys, but Jennifer Aniston was originally asked to play Monica, Courtney Cox was seriously considered for the part of Rachel, and Lisa Kudrow was only cast at the last minute after being dropped from a part in Frasier.
When I met these actors, it was just, you just thought, this is a good thing. This is a good one. This combination of people, this mix works really, really well, and I think people will like it.
The casting of Friends is a chemistry experiment that works on screen and off. They're sickeningly close.
We just kind of got lucky about that, and it started off, it was, of course we're going to get along. We've all got this great job. We've all come from television shows that didn't really work, and now all of a sudden we're all happy and it's working, so of course we're going to get along. And then we just really got lucky. There isn't a bad seed in the group, and I can't believe I just said bad seed. I can't believe it. And, we all are just getting along really, really well. I enjoy Jennifer like no other, not unlike a fine wine or a Chablis.
We communicate well, we have a great time during rehearsal, and it's just the entire combination makes it gel.
I'm probably the luckiest person in the world when it comes to being able to work on a show we've been doing for 4 years, and we get along beautifully. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I really like the show. I have a lot of respect for the writing, and I think we do a good job. So anytime, one of us starts to complain, including myself, about, oh, this is a lot of work, why are we staying so late, this should be getting easier, we remind each other that we work hard because of the quality of the show demands it.
It's that sort of team spirit that's kept Friends together. Well, that and a hefty bonus on their 100th episode.
And actually, we were kind of blasé about it throughout the week. If you remember, we were like, yeah, 100, yeah, that's great.
No big deal. And it didn't even hit us until I think we came out and saw a banner, and it was just a big cake.
And we were like, oh, yeah,
felt like a normal night.
It's gone by really fast.
I know. That's what's so crazy.
We've all been on other shows where there's been tension and just weirdness, and
I've never actually been on another show that went any farther than 13 episodes, so I don't really.
Well, still, me either. But I'm saying,
Yeah. No, you have. You had that thing run on Blossom.
I think 1 or 2 guest spots on Blossom. Thanks for bringing that up. And
I think it's the only thing I've ever done in my life 100 times.
Oh, we've done it 100 times.
Yeah. So you're just going to say that right out there, huh? It's awkward. All right.
The show's about 6 individuals who live in the Big Apple, and each of them has separate careers and love interests, and are in that phase of their lives where they're not relying on their parents anymore for financial stability, and are not yet settled with a husband or wife, or I was, but or kids, and so we're in that kind of gray area where we're relying on our friends for kind of emotional support and spiritual support, and trying to make it on our own in the big city.
Friends gives us a situation that we all want to be in. We all want to be single and carefree and young and attractive and have friends who care about us no matter what happens, and be able to go on adventures and be able to have romances and come back and start all over again. And this is the ideal, and we can live that through Friends.
Well, the good thing about Monica is sometimes she's obsessive, compulsive, hard-driving girl. But then, next episode, she won't even care, and she'll have her, she's not uptight all the time. I think she goes in spurts, and I'm kind of actually like that too,
For all her obsessive tidiness, Harmonica can go crazy. Who would have thought she'd have ended up between the sheets with Chandler?
I hope that it keeps going, because for a couple of reasons. I'll get to kiss her a lot, which is nice. And also, it's kind of an interesting dynamic, because I think it's the 2 most neurotic people on the show.
It's really just brought this new life for me on the show. But just also showing another side to Monica, that she's just like this. I don't know, a sexual side is nice to show of Monica. She's so
easy
obsessed. I know.
slugger.
Courtney Cox is a true Southern girl who was born in Birmingham, Alabama in June 1964 and spent her childhood far from the city centre in its very plush suburbs.
Yeah, my name is Alan Hunter, and I was an original MTV VJ. That means I was like one of the first VJs on MTV. Courtney Cox grew up around Mountain Brook, which is the same area that I grew up in Birmingham. A nice, rich little place to grow up. They call it the Tiny Kingdom, though. The Tiny Kingdom is where Courtney grew up. They lived about 2 blocks away from my folks on a street called Knollwood in the Tiny Kingdom of Mountain Brook, Alabama. An exclusive little area where if you got a weed in your yard, you're bad news. You're out of the neighborhood if you got a weed in your yard, you know what I mean? So that's where Courtney grew up. I think she'd like to hang around a tinier part of the Tiny Kingdom, a place called Crestline, which is where all the cool yuppies hung out. And I think Courtney used to butt around with some of her buds in that little place. They'd go from a little coffee shop to a little gift shop, probably, to another little coffee shop. Courtney went to Mountain Brook High School, which is the high school in the Tiny Kingdom. It's a sprawling complex of buildings and theaters and gymnasiums and soccer fields and football fields. A lot of money there at Mountain Brook High School. Their books were not old and tattered. They were all new. I never called her this, but I know that her friends growing up in high school called her Cece, which I think the reason I didn't call her Cece is because I understood that she'd slug you if she called you that. I think you have to be I think you have to be a girlfriend to call Courtney Cece. And I was never her girlfriend, so I never called her Cece.
Bizarre friends and family fact number 1. When her mother remarried, Courtney Cox inherited a new cousin, Stuart Copeland, drummer with that well-known Anglo-American pop combo, The Police.
My name is Stuart Copeland, and I am Courtney's first step cousin, or step first cousin. She is the daughter of my father's brother's new wife, as of about 25 years ago.
Of course, you know the cousin thing down south in Alabama. Joke is that, you marry your cousin.
Actually, she went out with my brother Ian for many years. Being cousins, we're from the south. It's kind of the way it works, I guess.
But they were all sort of related from New York to Alabama. A weird little connection there. Weirder than we should go into right now.
But she's one of the more bubblier and charismatic members of the family. I first met Courtney at a police show in Birmingham, Alabama, which is where my family comes from. And down in Birmingham, Alabama, the Copeland family takes up half a telephone book. So there was Courtney in this sea of Copeland faces as a new member, her mother having just married my uncle. And after escaping from this Klan thing, Southern American families can be very crushing in their hospitality. But she took me off into the night of Birmingham, Alabama. And she, I think, was 17 or 18 at the time. She had a flash sports car. And she showed me all over Birmingham, the night lights of Birmingham, Alabama. And then I didn't see her again for a few years until she moved up to New York and was represented by my brother Ian as a model. And she got a gig in a Bruce Springsteen video, and the rest is history.
Let's see, early remembrances of Courtney Cox. I was working at MTV, it's about 1983, 84, something like that, and we all heard about this gal who got into a Bruce Springsteen video, and heard she's from Birmingham. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Another Birminghamian on MTV, imagine that. How often would that happen? And lo and behold, she was in it, and I thought it was pretty groovy. I then met her, I think shortly thereafter, at a party at IRS Records, and we yapped about the hometown.
She's challenging. That's what I like about her. That's what my brother loved about her, was that she's challenging. She's very quick. She doesn't take any BS. She cuts straight to the thing, and she's very challenging.
After graduating, Cox headed for the Big Apple, where she joined a modeling agency and pipped hundreds of other wannabes for a 24-second starring role in the video for Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark.
When she was in the Bruce Springsteen video, she was supposed to be a fan plucked from obscurity, which is really what she was at the time. She had had some work I don't know if model is the right word. She was an actor in commercials, and I don't know if you call that a model. I'm not sure. Thespian, I guess. But so that was her first, when a lot of people saw her, and she started to get a lot of calls for a lot of different things. And she was in various things before Friends came along. But I guess that's where she really found her métier.
By 1987, the woman who was to become known as the Supreme Court was making the transition from star model to minor movie star. And when she landed the role of Michael J. Fox's girlfriend in TV's Family Ties, the fan mail started to pour in.
So a lot of times it's from girls, but I get strange ones. I get ones from people that claim they're the devil. I don't know, I get like really weird fan mail. But I don't know, usually it's from girls.
For 7 long years, Courtney Cox climbed the stepladder of fame, appearing in films like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, popping up alongside Angela Lansbury in TV's Murder, She Wrote, and grinning the grin in Seinfeld and The Larry Sanders Show.
I really don't know what her career wishes were when she was young, when I first met her in Birmingham, Alabama. But I could see that she had something which I've actually become familiar with, which is that golden ray of sun coming down from the heavens, lighting her up. In this sea of faces down there in Birmingham, she stood out with her charisma and her sparkle and very quick wit. This was a live wire. You could see it back then that she had a particular sparkle. I can tell you that Courtney is very puritanical. My wild and woolly brother Ian had all kinds of bad habits, drinking, partying, and late nights and all that stuff, and she slowed him right down. She just stopped that right there, and he absolutely had to clean up his act with her. She didn't put up with any social deviance, you know, and she's actually just a good, clean girl from Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you very much. Come back and see us, y'all.
I believe that Courtney's personal character is not dissimilar to her character on Friends. She was a pretty no-nonsense gal, from what I can tell in person. She's kind of straight ahead, sarcastic.
I'd like to be Monica on a, you know, on Prozac or something, just a little more calm.
It takes a clever performer to play a man as dumb as Joey, a would-be actor whose career peaked when he played Al Pacino's bottom double. It's a dumbness that shines all the more brightly against the dark wit of Chandler.
Kind of a neat little thing going, Maddie and I, Joey and Chandler, and it's the cheap way to is like the odd couple thing, or roommate, whatever. But whatever it is, it's working, and we really look forward to having scenes together.
It's hard, you know. You rehearse it all week. You put it up on its feet, and you just can't get through it without cracking up.
Coming from Boston, Matt LeBlanc already had a head start when it came to starring in a classic American sitcom. 10 years earlier, and he could have been propping up the bar at Cheers.
Everyone knows my name now, and I'm from Boston.
Growing up in the Boston suburbs, LeBlanc dreamed of racing motorcycles. It was all bikes and girls for Matt, rather than dull, boring old schoolwork at the local Newton North High.
I knew Matt LeBlanc when he was a student of mine. I would see him walking around on Main Street in school, and I would say, Matt, how are the studies going? He'd say, oh, not so well, Mr. Leofanti. I'd say, Matt, you know, you're going to have to study and bear down if you're going to make a success of yourself. He'd just shake his head and say, no, that's not for me. See, that's how smart I am. He made it without it. All right, Matt LeBlanc, he started off the school year doing all his homework, and then he started dreaming. In 9th grade, it's probably when he started to notice girls. Yeah, the closer we got to spring, the less he did his homework. He probably could have done a lot better if he really applied himself. Matt majored in carpentry here at Newton North. In fact, his favorite teacher is probably his carpentry teacher, Mr. Barbosa. And Matt was, from what I understand, a good carpenter, and he did put a lot of energy into that. Newton, for the most part, is a fairly upscale community, and most students go on to college. Matt came from the area called the Lake. There used to be a lake there, but they've since filled it in. Mostly Italian, Irish kids come from that area. And there's a real strong bond amongst those kids, and they're very proud to come from this area. And they're not known as the best students in the school, but they're known as the students that seem to have the most fun and enjoy the school the most, and do a lot of, and contribute a lot to the school. Looking for the handsome Matt LeBlanc here. There he is. Matt LeBlanc remembers the good times. Billy, Bruno, Bresno, Ken, Kathy, Paul, Brian, Pete, Jimmy, Bobby, Del, Big Dave, Joe, Daly, Bloomies, Weston, forever Jenny. Thanks for everything, Mom, Dad, and Steve. He probably could have been a better student than he was, but he had dreams.
After leaving high school, Matt LeBlanc headed for New York, where he met a drama teacher who really recognized the potential of this aspiring young actor.
Get immediately to the conflict, bing, bing, all right? And move it along.
Oh, I first met Matt when he was barely 18. He had just come to New York. I don't think he had any intention of acting at that point. He was really a carpenter. And one of my students brought him to my adult class. And he walked in, and it was love at first sight. I mean, it's impossible when you meet Matt not to fall in love with him.
It makes it all rather worse. We're changing to much worse.
And after the class, I remember his coming over and saying, I think I like to do this. This is fun. You have room for somebody else in the class? And I said, I certainly do for you, young man.
You're my daddy, and I say, Daddy, I'm pregnant.
He is totally engaging. He's completely unpretentious. He never, ever had any idea of the impact that he had on the opposite sex. He was so handsome and so charming and so completely without guile. Very, very dear. Very talented. Enormously talented.
Cool carpenter by day, hot model by night, LeBlanc soon reeled in major league commercials for everything from Levi jeans to tomato ketchup.
I sent him along to agents, yes, indeed. I wanted as many people as I could to find to see him, and they all loved him. The first jobs that he got were all commercials, and he did very, very well in commercials. In fact, he had one commercial. It was a Heinz ketchup commercial that was it became very famous. It became international, and then it was used later in another movie. And I remember Matt telling me that with that one commercial, he was able to buy a house in California, and a car, and a motorcycle, and a wardrobe of clothes. That was great. Matt went to California. When he left, he said to me, Flo, I'm not quite ready to go. I know that we need to work a little bit more. But it was impossible to keep him away. I mean, everybody wanted him. He was doing one commercial after another. Everybody was clamoring for him, and rightfully so. And people wanted him for sitcoms. And he did quite a few sitcoms before he got to Friends. But he was sent for, and he had to go. And every now and again he would call me and say, Flo, I should just come and work with you for 2 weeks straight, and we'll just finish up. I said, I'd love it whenever you have time, but from that day to this, he's never had time.
The cast of Friends are now among America's most recognized TV stars, but fame does have its flip side. Like fans of Matt LeBlanc shouting, "Hey, Joey," at him wherever he goes.
Yeah, well, that's what it used to be. Now it's 4 people come up and say, "Hey, Matt." So it's like entered that area now, where everyone knows my name now, and I'm from Boston, and all these kinds of things. That's a little unnerving at times, but you know, it's great.
But LeBlanc's not the only one who fans continually want to thank, just for being a friend.
I can't deny that it bothers me at times that we're in the tabloids, or that we try to go out to dinner and there are people chasing us in cars with video cameras. If I'm having a nice dinner with someone, I'm having a conversation, if someone comes up and says, "Hey, can I get a picture?" I say, "You know what, not right now, it's inappropriate. I'm having a nice dinner right now, we're in a restaurant." But if, if I'm getting a hot dog at a stand, that's another thing, if I'm on the street. But I think people have to learn to recognize when it's appropriate and when it's not.
And then there's the constant pressure of always having to look your Sunday best, which means you can't even pop out for a pint of milk in your slippers, unless, of course, they've been made by Versace.
After that cover came out, I thought, oh gosh, now I'm going to have to try to look good all the time. And that's not good. I felt a little pressure because I just knew people would say, "Oh my God, that's what she really looks like." Because, you take a picture of somebody and you blow, you sandblast the shot and everything becomes white and you see no freckles, and it becomes, it's not really what you look like.
You have 30 seconds to answer the following questions. Which of these is not a European city? 4 towns need roads built to link them. Which scheme requires the least amount of road? Which driver is going to feel safer, the one with a really loud horn, or the one with driver, passenger and lateral airbags, PRS and ABS? Test drive your IQ now. The Renault Laguna.
All the cast of Friends have their own fans who are crazy about each one of them. But Jennifer Aniston is the only one to have a fan club just for her hair.
It's flattering, but you know what? There's definitely a part of you that says, why am I getting noticed for my haircut and not for my work?
Strangely enough, she never did like that hair.
I walked out of that hair salon practically in tears thinking, I don't know what the hell he did in my hair. I'm wearing a hat for a year. And that's the ironic part, is then all of a sudden everybody starts talking about it.
That much-copied hairstyle was called a shag, which must have provoked some very jolly banter in British salons.
That haircut hasn't been around for 4 years. Let it die.
Jennifer Aniston was born in the Californian town of Sherman Oaks 3 days before Valentine's Day in 1969. But she grew up in a Manhattan tower block as a member of a real showbiz family. Her dad, John Aniston, was an American soap star, whilst bizarre friends and family fact number 2, Telly Kojak Savalas was her godfather and gave her a pink bicycle on her 7th birthday. Not surprisingly, she was an arty child, spending her time in drama clubs and painting classes. She even exhibited at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. But acting finally won the day, and Jennifer applied to join a school which has gone down in TV history as the heart and leg-warming inspiration for the TV series Fame.
We used to audition about 4,000 kids a year and had openings for about 85 to 90. So to get in, you had to be good. Didn't have to be professional, but had to show the instinct.
Jennifer had that capacity to show, a greater capacity to show emotions, love, hate, joy, sorrow. You could see it in her eyes. So she was an interesting kid, one of the good ones. Most young people come to secondary education tabula rasa, a clean slate, and they let the faculty write on that slate. Then there are kids like Jennifer who appear not tabula rasa, but they seem to already be what they're going to be. They're like a piece of undeveloped film, waiting for the developer to bring to the surface that embedded image that's already been planted there.
Hi, I went to Music and Art. My name is Andrew Kane. I graduated with Jennifer Aniston. 1987 was one of the most talented years. There's the yearbook picture of Jennifer Aniston in here, if you'd like to see. So here she is. Her yearbook picture is on on this page with, Cher's daughter, Chastity, and, Eagle-Eyed Cherry, who's out and doing a lot of music. Jennifer Aniston's quote says, "It's been a real experience. My friends in PA will live in my heart forever. I'll miss you," which is really nice.
Imagine how delighted Jennifer Aniston must be to learn that her college buddies have kept amusing old photos of her from before she was famous.
Every Halloween, every year during Halloween, people dress up. And it's like a big time of the year in LaGuardia. Some people don't, some people do. It's a lot of fun. People who dress up for Halloween, I was photographing a lot in high school. And I happen to have one photograph of Jennifer Aniston. Here it is. Yep, this is her. She's a witch.
Jennifer at school, I remember at the old school and the new school, exuberant. Lots of energy. I remember one of our spring drama festivals I was directing, and she was on the stage crew. And when the show was over, the last performance, I remember all the girls and boys, they were jumping around. They were so happy the show was over. She had so much energy. She was 15, I think. So much energy and funny and leading everybody and singing and dancing.
One of the things I remember most about Jennifer was her working on stage crew, hauling scenery, painting scenery, setting lights, working on makeup, sewing costumes. She always made herself available. And working on her scenes, rehearsing after school for hours. But basically, I think of Jennifer as a member of a team. And I watch in Friends, she seems to have taken that into her career. But she was a great kid when it came to cooperating. And we'd have to send her home because she'd stay forever.
Actually, when I was a senior in high school, I worked in an advertising agency for about a year. I was a receptionist.
As well as temping in an office, Aniston also worked as a waitress in the oddly named Jackson Hole. So it's not just method acting that makes her look at home amongst the coffee percolators of the Friends meeting place, Central Perk. With a showbiz family, good looks, waitressing ability and a talent for acting, it was no surprise when Jennifer Aniston made it big time.
Some people just have a bone structure or a personality that you put them on camera, the camera loves them. They don't have to say a word, they just love them. She got on camera, you don't look at anybody else. And she was funny, had a wonderful sense of comedy, could find the timing. Comedy is, someone said, who was it? I forget who said it, but comedy is like music. You have to know the notes and the timing, the rhythm and the timing. When she got on camera, she brought something else to it. There was some extra thing to it. It was behind the eyes. That's it. You can look at somebody on camera, on television, on movies, and the really good ones, doesn't mean the stars, but I mean good actors. There's something behind the eyes. You can see something. You can see the brain working. And she had it as a young girl. She was wonderful in that commercial. She got an A, I'm sure.
Welcome to LA, where every year thousands of young actors and actresses swarm from all across America. It was here that Jennifer Aniston got serious about her career and started landing parts in programs like Ferris Bueller and Quantum Leap. Now all she needed was a part that can run and run.
They've all gotten on the air except for one pilot, but they'll last maybe 6 episodes, 13 episodes. I think the most I did was 19 episodes of a show. And then they're never heard of. Nobody knows about them.
When Jennifer met Rachel, it all clicked, and the realms of male fantasy changed forever.
Yes, I can completely understand why half of America has a crush on her. Not when you're making that scrunchy face, though.
I think maybe why do they like Rachel? She's sort of innocent and vulnerable and, you know, genuine, and those are attractive traits, I guess.
Well, the question that arises frequently is there a difference between Jennifer and Rachel? How much of Rachel is Jennifer and how much of Jennifer is Rachel? But that's a question that every actor faces. The good ones force you to ask that question.
I'm distracted. Not distracted, I just think, I go into my head. People make fun of me because, like, Matt always makes fun of me because I go off and I'll go into the zone.
What's going on with the romance thing is something that preoccupies most episodes of Friends and its millions of fans. So would it really be that surprising if the on-screen passion, like the one between Monica and Chandler, spilled over into what we mere mortals call real life?
It's certainly a bad thing, a bad idea in general to get into a relationship with somebody you're working with, because you're going to break up and it's going to be bad and you have to see the person every day. But, you know, I don't want to say that and then, you know, cut to 4 years from now I'm married to Courtney Cox. And then they'll play that at the wedding.
The cast of Friends is a paparazzi's dream. 6 young, sexy actors, all with so-called private lives of their own. Lives and loves that have already taken up thousands upon thousands of rolls of film. Even the world's highest paid film actress thought she'd like to make new friends.
I'm dating a woman named Julia Roberts, who, I gotta clear this up though, it's not the Julia Roberts from the movies. She's a cobbler, but a good cobbler.
Sadly, romance soon faded, despite Julia's shoemaking capabilities. But at least Perry now knows what he wants in a girl.
I'm looking for rich, very, very wealthy. I'm looking for somebody who can play hockey better than I can. And so I don't know why I haven't been able to find this. A rich hockey player woman? Why should I be having a problem?
Matthew Perry was born in Massachusetts in August 1969, but moved to Canada after his parents split up. Bizarre friends and family fact number 3. Perry's father once splashed on Old Spice in the famous 1970s TV commercials. Perry grew up in a comfortable home in Ottawa and went to the rather posh Ashbury College.
Matthew Perry was here for grade 8 at Ashbury College, and that he was quite the hockey player, soccer player. Well, he was more of the goalie for soccer. And he has been back to the school occasionally to see Greg Simpson, who was the director of The Lord of the Flies. He directed it, and Matthew was very talented in the production when he was in grade 8.
He came back a few years ago, and he had to sort of run off because the kids, yeah, because he's here, go, go, go. But he came back a few years ago, and I was lucky enough that he sat in some of my drama classes and talked about professional script writing and acting. And this was before Friends, and he talked a lot about Hollywood and a lot about what he was doing, which was fascinating to my students who had known his work on various sitcoms that he was involved in. And he signed autographs. All the time he signed autographs.
It was clear to his teachers, as it somehow always is in retrospect, that Perry was a born actor.
Back in 1981, and we were going to do a show called The Death and Life of Sneaky Fitch. And he came out, and he had his part all memorized. I mean, the audition piece. None of the other kids had memorized anything. And right away, I thought that that was really incredible. Went through the audition process, and we cast him. It was just the beginning of a great 3-play career here at the school for him. He was a terrific kid and a great success in that role.
He won awards for getting over 80%. He was also very involved with public speaking, Here's an article on Matthew when he was involved with a public speaking group. It says that the audience was in turn amused by Willie Raby's And My Father and Me, informed by Matthew Perry's Pay TV. So I guess he did a special public speaking topic of Pay TV.
He was a cast leader. He was helpful. He was always there at the beginning, first, always almost the last to leave. I know that sounds like a hockey player, but it's true. And you know, they had cast parties. He was always involved and friendly and up and positive, even in the sort of the dark days of sort of late November when we were rehearsing and into the sort of wee hours. He was always good with the other kids, and a lot of the cast members thought he was just terrific, no question about that. I know that at one point I believe that he was thinking about doing something in tennis. He was a good tennis player, and I think at one point in his, like when in grade 7 and 8, I think he was thinking about perhaps he might want to take that on as a profession.
When he was 15, Matthew Perry went to California to play tennis, live with his dad, and learn all about how to smell great in the 1970s. Fortunately, acting soon took over from tennis as his great passion.
2 out of the 3 shows that he did here were comedies, and he was terrific. His timing and his facial expressions and his what we call psychophysical action, the way he was able to move his body in those 2 shows, it was outstanding, and it was brilliant. And much of his work in dramatic arts too at that time was improvisational comedy. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all that he's moved into the field of comedy at this point.
The late 80s and early 90s were frustrating times for Perry, as he would turn up in TV series, deliver his one-liners, and then move on.
I was on every canceled show that George Clooney wasn't on. I was on a show called Boys Will Be Boys for a while, and another show.
But the thing is that he persevered. And I remember speaking to him in person when he was, you know, on contract to write, and he couldn't audition for a particular film, and he was not upset, but you could see that, you know, there was an opportunity that he couldn't fulfill at that time, and yet he kept on and on and on, and that's the determination, the hard work, and then friends came, and that's the thing, and that just did not surprise me, because there isn't such a thing, as far as I'm concerned, as an overnight success. I mean, he put in his hard work and his dues, but he kept at it, you know, during the low times and obviously the high times.
I love Chandler lines. To me, my opinion, oh, maybe I shouldn't say this, but Chandler lines can make a show for me. When I watch the show, if something's happening and it's, I know.
If I could play any other character on the show, I would play Chandler.
I would say that Chandler is the funniest.
I can relate to this guy because I have kind of the same sense of humor as he does, and I guess that involves a certain amount of acerbic quality. But I have to admit that before I got the show and was described that way, I didn't know what acerbic meant.
You said that. You just said that?
I did. I said, I'll freely admit it to America. I didn't quite know what it meant because there's a weird SC spelling thing going on in that word, and I could never handle it or grasp it.
Like Matthew Perry himself, his character, Chandler Bing, is also a great wit with a fine line in sarcasm.
He's, people can relate to him because he kind of wears his heart on his sleeve.
If it is true that Chandler gets all the best lines, then Perry can at least take some of the credit himself.
Basically, I pitch, I'm like Oral Hershiser, man, with funny lines, and about, you know, 2 out of 10 maybe make the show, and like 5 out of 10 are nobody even understands.
Celebrity guest stars have been a popular feature in Friends since it first hit the spot in September 1994. There have been regulars like Tom Selleck and one-offs like the celebrity cobbler Julia Roberts and Robin Williams. And it's not just Americans queuing up for a bit of pro-celebrity sitcom. When Friends came to London for Ross and Emily's wedding, they bumped into amateur balloonist Richard Branson and a TV chat show host.
I thought she was great. I'd work with her again. Well, all the paparazzi really showed up when she showed up, too.
We thought we were a very big deal until Fergie showed up, and then we realized, no.
Yeah, they must have known she was coming.
Yeah, much bigger deal when she was there.
For filming, the show was granted the freedom of the city, except for Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, she said no.
Yeah, the Queen just went, hey, you know what? All the shooting? No.
You're not shooting anything.
And we said, hey, we'll put you on the show. And she went, oh, no.
Meanwhile, Fergie is said to be keen for more.
She's been begging. She's been writing letters upon letters upon letters, but it's pretty much up to Maddie, because Maddie was in the scene.
In fact, Fergie was a stand-in for Lisa Kudrow, who didn't make the trip for one very big reason.
I didn't go.
You didn't go?
I was too pregnant.
Oh, no.
Couldn't go. Yeah, all right.
Well, we'll
There,
figure out a
did you
way
get a
to
good shot?
But they kept in touch, because that's what friends are for.
Faxing, keeping each other informed. Not she and I, at least she and I to Lisa. Just to clarify.
It was weird coming here without her, definitely. But
Yeah.
the next time we see her, she'll have a baby, so it'll be fun.
Everyone but me is exactly like their character.
Phoebe listens really carefully, I think, to what everybody's saying. It's just, you know, her response doesn't go through like the circuits it would for other people. You know, comes out something different.
After playing the reality-challenged Phoebe for 5 years, Lisa Kudrow finds that people tend to talk to her slowly in real life.
You know what the thing is? I've thought about it. I think my problem is, it's like someone in your family. I'm allowed to complain about her, but you're not. So it's as if like I'm allowed to say she's dumb, but you can't.
She projects something of herself, and she manages to convey a kind of naivete and an innocence that doesn't look phony, although we know that she is in reality much more hep than her character is.
Lisa Kudrow is one of the few people on the face of the planet that I have no idea what's going to come out of her mouth from one minute to the next.
Yeah.
I defy you to find someone who will be able to say a line like Lisa Kudrow. She's completely unique.
Why can't she just have her own adjective?
Well, in some ways, Lisa Kudrow's character, Phoebe, is the most standout character of the whole bunch, in that she's the most eccentric character on the show and the most noticeable, and she's called on to do really some weird types of things, make up some songs, play like she's so far out of it she doesn't really understand what's going on. So there are some acting challenges that she has in that show that are peculiar to her character. So maybe it's not so surprising that if someone had to win the award, it would be her.
With songs like Smelly Cat and My Mother's Ashes, it's no surprise that Phoebe isn't yet an award-winning songwriter. But Lisa Kudrow, the comedy actress, has a mantelpiece full of them. She started out in the valley town of Tarzana, California, so called because Edgar Rice Burroughs once lived there. He created Tarzan. No doubt you've already guessed that. Kudrow was born into a medical family on the 30th of July 1963. Both her father and her brother are doctors who specialize in treating headaches. But Lisa's headaches arrived when she started high school, where she had, by all accounts, a very difficult time.
My junior high school experience was pretty brutal, but high school, by then, I had so many walls built up that I couldn't be hurt anymore. And no, I just wouldn't have it. I just wasn't going to be hurt. And I actually felt like I outgrew them. You know, the cheerleaders and the jocks and everything. And I was really just happy to focus on studying and getting good grades and going to an Eastern college. That was my big goal.
Kudrow headed east to New York to study biology. But she soon left these hallowed halls to return to California, where she pursued a career in medical research. And, of course, after the 2,000th person said, "Hey, you know you're really funny," she packed it all in and got herself a proper job with a comedy improv group called The Groundlings. It proved a launchpad for her acting career. In fact, Kudrow was an established actress by the time Phoebe, the folk-singing philosopher, was born. Even before Friends, she had a successful screen career, appearing in 17 movies and playing Woody's girlfriend in Cheers. She's even popped up as Phoebe's evil twin sister, Ursula, in the sitcom Mad About You. Confusingly, Ursula's also appeared in Friends, where Kudrow's real-life sister sometimes acts as her stand-in.
I got my sister to be the other side of me, the back of my head. We look exactly alike. My sister, my real sister, in real life.
So your real sister is Ursula?
She's Ursula or Phoebe. Like, it's me. You only see me.
David Schwimmer was surrounded by the glitz and glamour of all-American showbiz from birth. He was born in LA in November 1966 to two high-powered celebrity lawyers. His mother has been particularly busy handling Roseanne Barr's divorce. Schwimmer's school days were spent at Beverly Hills High, otherwise known as Beverly Hills 90210, and it was here that he was bitten by the acting bug. He attended a drama summer school at Northwestern University in Chicago and continued his studies there after graduating from high school. In 1988, he founded the Looking Glass Theatre Company and won 6 Joseph Jefferson Awards for The Jungle, his directorial debut. After university, Schwimmer returned to LA, where he found parts in TV shows such as LA Law, The Wonder Years and NYPD Blue. Out of all the cast of Friends, he was the only one the writers had in mind when they created the 6 now famous roles, even though Schwimmer maintains he's quite different to his screen character.
I am intensely shy. Like, I'm not the guy at the party who's like the life of the party. At the party, I'm like on a couch in the corner talking, maybe talking to someone. Don't have to feel sorry for me. That's just who I am.
Playing shy and sensitive Ross has brought serious levels of fame and fortune for Schwimmer. But he's also had to cope with the surprise of being a sex symbol.
It's just very strange to me to even hear that. Yeah, no, of course I had no, yeah. It's embarrassing to even think of myself as a sex symbol hunk.
But is it Schwimmer or Ross who's driving the girls wild?
People are kind of falling for like the character and not necessarily me. I'm not as vulnerable in real life. I'm probably a little more aggressive when it comes to pursuing someone I'm interested in. So I probably am less attractive in real life.
So how then does David Schwimmer sum up the appeal of Ross Geller?
He's a regular Joe. He wants the good life. He wants to be married. He wants to have kids. He struck me as a family guy, and he struck me as a guy who is a romantic and who wants to be in love. And I just thought, oh, this is a guy I can play.
There is, of course, one important figure who declined to appear in this Friends and Family love-in. The 7th friend, Marcel, Monkey of Mystery.
The difficulty with the monkey was that it made the process a lot slower. It was just a much harder work and just not as fun or rewarding or challenging. The fact is it's a monkey and it doesn't know how to act. There's no kind of give and take. All the fun of the scenes were created in the editing room. And you just had to pray and hope that the monkey would eventually hit its mark or eventually lift a banana or do whatever. And that to me is not acting.
So unprofessional. So apart from the monkey, they're the best of friends. We love them, they love us. As long as we don't hassle them over dinner. And most importantly, just like our very own Teletubbies, friends love each other very, very much.
I think if someone started to get an ego or something went wrong with them, I don't think the other people would let that happen. I mean, we would sit them down and say, I'm saying we, I'm definitely not a one.
Well, your talk is coming.
It's been quite a ride. But it's still, as big as the show's gotten, it's still the 6 of us and the great communication we have with our writers and producers and this intimate show that we make.
We adore each other, hang out all the time. These are people I would choose as my friends in a minute, heartbeat. Lisa Kudrow and Courtney Cox are the best girlfriends you could ever ask for, and wonderful, and the boys are just the sweetest, most caring boys you could. We're the best boys. We love our boys.
Friends are back at 9:30 tomorrow night. More about that in a moment or two.